So you mentioned the Vortigern and then, well, Hengist and Horsa. So that's often where, if you read sort of a fairly low resolution history, like Churchill's History of the English Speaking Peoples, or I love Sir Charles Oman's History of the English, they sort of go straight in often with sort of the Hengist and Horsa thing.
Mm-hmm.
And one time I had you while we were talking, and just we weren't talking about the Anglo-Saxons, I don't think specifically, but somehow Hengist and Horsa came up, and you said you thought they were probably entirely fictional, or maybe sort of gods.
They're gods. They are gods.
What do you mean by that? Tell me.
Well,
what are you talking about?
For those who aren't aware, we should say first what you're talking about.
Sorry.
in the actual narrative presented, which is by a Celtic author, a Welsh author. The two twins come along for the Anglo-Saxons. The first Anglo-Saxons come, like Hengist and Horsa. Now those names are unattested anywhere. Okay. They're not normal names, and they both mean horse, and they're twins. So if you're aware of Indo-European religions, they always have two horse twins, like Castor and Pollux in the Greek Roman and Greek, the Dioscuri in Greece they're called, or in India they have the Ashvin twins, two twin horse boys, and they're always the sons or grandsons of the Sky Father. Hengist and Horsa appear in genealogies as the great grandsons or grandsons of Woden, the main god of the Anglo-Saxon pantheon. So they're twins, two males, both called Horse, and they're great grandsons of the Sky Father. It's pretty obvious. Also, these twins can sometimes play progenitor roles in various versions. Like in the version for Rome, they changed a bit, and they're more wolf boys called Romulus and Remus, and the two boys become the progenitors of the Roman race. So the English have like the progenitors of our racial progenitors are the Hengist and Horsa, this myth. And then the Welsh guy heard the Anglo-Saxon pagans saying this and says, oh, well, it was probably like, they're just people, and I'll euhemerize them as actual people and work a story into it where they're just normal people. But also there's Dutch, I can't remember, there's Dutch manuscript evidence where they talk about Hengist and Horsa as well. And they're a progenitor of tribe people in Holland as well. So it's like they have the same role in Holland as in England, where there's this divine, semi-divine descendants that link your people to the gods, because they're like the grandsons of the greatest god and they're our ancestors. So, you know how it works?
Yeah.
And, the horse stuff makes it pretty obvious. So I think that what we're seeing here is a Welshified version of an Anglo-Saxon narrative which was divinized, just like how the Odyssey, for example, includes the gods in the stories of the Trojan War, right? So the Anglo-Saxons would have a story of their settling of the British Isles, which incorporated the gods into it. And when a Christian Welshman hears that story, he tries to throw out all the pagan stuff and try and make it make sense from a rational Christian monk perspective. Hengist and Horsa are two guys.
Right.
That's what I think happened.
When you say it like that, it's extremely plausible. What's the Welsh connection? What are you talking about there? What, Geoffrey of Monmouth? Or where does it come from? Is it a Welsh version
the story of
Anglo-Saxon
the story of Vortigern that we just talked? That's from a Welsh source, isn't it?
Okay.
It's not Bede, is it?
I don't know where it first appears.
I believe
I don't know where that first appears.
I think it's Gildas or Geoffrey. I can't remember which one now.
Okay.
I get them mixed up sometimes. So that's not very good of me.
No.
They have very few sources for the period, but I managed to get them confused anyhow. But,
it's definitely the case, though, isn't it, that historians during the Dark Age or during the medieval period sort of tried as best they could to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
And so when they don't really know for sure what happened, they quite often, we sort of know now, don't we? I mean, it's the job of the modern scholar historian to say, that bit's not reliable. That bit in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle must be incorrect or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what I think they were doing at the time as well. They're like, that doesn't match the Bible, so it's not true. So we know the Bible's 100% true because that's the only thing that is true is with Christian Catholic monks. And anything we hear that doesn't match the Bible is untrue, so we have to try and change it to make it match the Bible. So that's kind of that's just how people are. Like they have one reference point of truth, from a trustworthy source, and they try and make other things fit into that narrative.
Oh, definitely. We were talking earlier just on the podcast about how historians copy each other and sort of always have since antiquity. One classic example always sticks in my mind of that is that one of the biographers of Charlemagne
Mm.
described Charlemagne's eating and drinking habits, and it's exactly word for word Suetonius talking about Augustus.
Mm.
And so people in the more modern era have noticed that and said, "Oh well, that's completely unreliable. Then he's just Augustus is like the perfect emperor, so
It's also just tropes.
we're just going to copy that." We don't know if it says anything truthful about Charlemagne.
Mm. Yeah, it's just, I
for
think
example,
that tropes like that as well in storytelling. Like you notice a lot of Catholic early hagiographies are the same as other saints. So you'll see two different saints with the exact same story, and it's kind of just like storytelling is. I mean, you can sometimes maybe you'll watch a Spider-Man and it's the same plot as you saw in a Batman, and they just took from an episode. Well, you know what I mean? Like the characters changed, but the stories. If someone knows a story that works, then they'll just kind of copy it. It's like that's a format of storytelling, and like things get confused about the actual reality of events. But yes, certainly, whenever you see a story that you also see somewhere else exactly the same, then you should doubt the authenticity of it. But it might not necessarily. It might still have a kernel of truth. For example, like the mythologized narrative of the Hengist and Horsa thing, I still think that Vortigern it's perfectly possible that Vortigern imported mercenaries from Saxony, and that these people were like the first among a great number of other settlers who came later. Maybe, like they send word for more people. An army at that time could be very small. Like a very small amount. It might have been that the amount of people Vortigern actually invited over was like 100 men. And certainly we know from like both a study of skull measurements from Eastern England at the time and another one of DNA of skeletons from the time, that between 75 and 80% of the population of the eastern seaboard of England was replaced initially. That is not possible with 100 soldiers. There's no way. So there was wholesale migration of families and settler colonialism, which is not recorded in these sources, but it must have happened something like that. But this mythologized, that doesn't mean this mythologized sort of narrative of the events that we find in medieval sources isn't true. It might just be, a part of it. Like it's kind of like the Windrush now. Like everyone's talked about like the origin of like multiculturalism in UK as like Windrush. Not even 1% of the immigrant population of Britain comes from Windrush. It's not remotely significant in like the actual proportions, but it did actually occur. Windrush was a real event, and it kind of like has been mythologized as like a way for British people to understand multiculturalism. Something like that, maybe.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I mean, if I mention again that Charlemagne story, it might be because in that example, it was that he eats in this particular way and only has one glass of wine at dinner. It might be that was true about Charlemagne. The biographer knows, to describe that, that's true also of Augustus, so I will use it. It doesn't mean it's untrue. But still, anyway, these are the vagaries of history. And we just don't have multiple sources to sort of cross-check things. Again, quite early on, if it's not in like the earliest bits of the chronicle, or if Bede doesn't talk about it, then we haven't got a great, there's no great sources to.
No,
it's only the archaeological record you've got, which is, by its very nature, incomplete.
If you would like to see the full version of this premium video, please head over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe to gain full access to all of our premium content.